Hello, Bolt family. I'm Bolt Dad. Today we're going to talk about you and why you are honestly the best NFL fan base in the league.
You're streaming the Bolt Dad podcast with your host, Bolt Dad.
Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe for more content like this.
Bolt Dad, baby.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it. Today, we are going to talk about you, the fan base, and why you are honestly the best fan base in the entire league. This video is not fluff. I'm actually going to bring up some what I feel are valid points as to why I feel that we have the best fan base. Now, there's a lot of great fan bases across the NFL. This is not necessarily against those. This is really talking about the positives of our team, our fan base, and really it's a celebration of where we've come from in recent years to where we're at now. It's astonishing. It's fantastic. It's something to be celebrated. It has to be talked about. And so let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? All right. So the first things first, what I want to talk about in regards to our fan base, this is actually kind of interesting. I had already previously recorded this episode and I was about ready to post it, but I slept on it and I kept thinking of an analogy that I wanted to use. So I thought, you know what, let's completely re-record this conversation. I wanted to talk about how being a Charger fan in this fan base, in this moment, believe it or not, reminds me a lot of my experience when I was in the military. I was in the Army, and there's a saying that there's several sayings in the Army, but there's one saying really across the military, but in the Army in particular, it says green. You're basically green no matter who. Right? Doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter your background, you are green, right? And so that's an important thing to think about in the context of the Army, because when you really break it down, there's a lot of people coming from all over the country, in every corner of the country, and they may or may not always like each other, right? Because they're coming from different backgrounds. And so in the Army, during basic training, you're basically torn down and built back up, right? Into one team. Individuals are torn down and then they're built back up. Okay? So how does that relate to the Chargers and Chargers fan base? Well, a lot of different reasons. And this is what really stuck with me. So we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to bring up some old wounds a little bit with the San Diego experience, and that's really going to help, I think, build to where we are now and where we are going as a fan base, and why we're so much stronger than we ever were. To use another analogy that's going to help us with this example is rising like the phoenix, right? To rise like the phoenix, you have to come from the ashes, right? You have to come from devastation, from catastrophe. And from that catastrophe, you rise out of the ashes to be stronger, smarter, more appreciative of life and in general, right? And I think that is where we're at. We're the phoenix in that sense. I know this sounds like fluff, but stick with me here. So let's go ahead and dive into the history, recent history, just a little bit. If you've been a Charger fan more than even a few years, or you know the history that we have gone through. So the Charger fan base clearly was established a long time ago in San Diego and had been there for generations. People grew up Charger fans, and their family was Charger fans, and there's a point of pride there, right? And when they left, it was devastating. Okay, it genuinely was. This is something, by the way, I feel like, not to tell you what to do, but if you are a Los Angeles-based fan, you should have, I would hope, some level of respect or appreciation for the fans that are still with the Chargers. And you might joke and say, hey, they're being bitter. Well, they have a right to be bitter. But you know what? You should also hopefully have some level of respect for them, because they swallowed some of that pride and they said, you know what? As much as I love my city, I love the Chargers so much. I'm coming back to them, or I'm staying with them. And that is something that is very, very commendable and respectable. So on the flip side, as a San Diego fan, I think it's important to embrace the new fan base that's establishing and building in the LA market. And I come at this, just so you know, with my history. I actually grew up in San Diego throughout all of high school. And then after high school, I went in the military, came back, and I lived with my grandparents in Los Angeles. So, and I ended up living there for, about 5 to 6 years. So I have a lot of family, friends, connections in the Los Angeles area, as well as San Diego. I personally, I have to admit, I was devastated when they moved to LA, but probably not as much so as if I had lived there, lived in San Diego, continued to live there. And I lived in LA, and now I live in Northern California. So I wasn't as hurt by it, so it was an easier transition for me. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing that pain up, and I don't want to get into details, but I'm bringing that up because that's the fire, the catastrophe, the ashes that I'm referring to. When all that happened, it wasn't just, by the way, that it happened, that the Chargers moved. It was how Dean Spanos went about it. It was a catastrophe in its own right, the way it was handled. And to see how the Chargers, with the social media and the team and the coaching and everything now, it's night and day difference between the way ownership is really handling the LA market versus the way they did it down in San Diego. In all fairness, there wasn't a social media, well, there wasn't a lot of internet all that long ago, but even with what there wasn't as much of a presence as there is now on a daily basis, the way there is in social media in Los Angeles. And so, but to Dean Spanos and the Chargers' credit, they really turned it up a notch when they got to LA, and it's been just a whirlwind. It's so exciting, a lot of growth, and to see the wounds heal slowly but surely. Watching the Chargers, right? It's there's still a lot of people incredibly bitter about it, but a lot of people are they're healing, right? And it's really, really exciting to see that. And what's really, really neat about all that is how you're starting to see LA fans and previous San Diego fans, kind of merging together to create this new fan base. It's rejuvenated. It's exciting. I can't say that enough. I'm really, really excited about this season, but I couldn't be excited about this season if there wasn't some sort of build up to this point, right? Obviously, we made a fantastic draft picks with Rashawn Slater and, of course, Justin Herbert. But outside of the players, the recent draft picks, the social media hires that they've had and their interactions with the team, and how they're interacting with the community. It's so genuine. You could just feel it. Super exciting. I want to give a special shout out to Tony, by the way. That video with Jen, you two, when you were out there for his birthday, that was incredibly touching. And something like that could not happen if there wasn't a real, genuine, established fan base that's growing here, and it feels real. And as far away as I am right now from Los Angeles, I still feel connected to it. There's another level that I feel, and that's why I had to bring it up. The way I feel with all my, to bring back to the Army, the way I feel with all my old Army buddies, I have that same general feeling and connection with all of my Charger Bolt fam. I genuinely do, and there's some parallel there. There's something to that, and I just had to vocalize it. That's my experience and my take on it. By the way, as we kind of dive into this, I have more valid points to bring up and why I feel we're the best fan base. But I'm really curious about your take, your history, what how long have you been a Charger fan? Why are you a Charger fan? And if you were a San Diego fan, you came back to being a Charger fan, or maybe you stayed through the whole thing. What's your take on it? Why are you still with the Chargers? It's and I think we should all celebrate together being fans of this team, because it's something special. Okay, so hopefully I've established at least a little bit of my perspective on why I think my experience in the Army a little bit relates to the Chargers. I almost want to call it like our fan base a little bit, our Bolt fam, like the Charger Army a little bit, right? I get goosebumps when I think of that. Okay, so let's dive into some other reasons why we genuinely have the best fan base. Another reason is there are a ton of distractions in the LA market. There's a lot of things to do. And if you're down in San Diego, there's just as many things to do down there. We have beaches, we have celebrities, we have Disneyland. I mean, there's literally, the weather's beautiful all the time. There's literally so many distractions all the time. In fact, I was watching the movie Draft Day the other day, and they were kind of talking about the Browns briefly, and they brought up how we don't have anything else but football because it's cold outside. Well, that's not the case here. We have a lot of things that can distract us, but they don't distract us. They only enable us to support our team even more. And that says a lot about the fan base, right? It's not a bunch of, we're not a bunch of bandwagoners. If you are a Charger fan, you're ride or die with Bolt fam, right? You are ride or die with the Chargers, and it's a real genuine love for the team, and that's something that's powerful. You can't take that away from us. We could easily go off and do a lot of things on a football Sunday, but we don't. We stay here and we watch our Chargers, or we go to the stadium and we watch the game. Again, I feel like that's one of the things that's overlooked, that should not be overlooked, because I think that alone says a lot about the Charger fan base that's established here and that's also continuing to grow. So we talked about the weather, the distractions. We talked about how there's my kind of Army analogy and rising from the Phoenix. But let's kind of dive in a little bit more about those distractions, and we'll say there's a couple other things. So we have in the Los Angeles market, there's multiple sports. I mean, obviously we have the NBA. We got two NBA teams. We got the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, gosh, that alone would be hard enough to get past in some cases. We have another NFL team. We have the Rams. who just won their Super Bowl. We also have, college football, right? I mean, you seriously have two huge college programs in UCLA and USC. So, there's, again, that's just adding to the distractions on top of great beaches and great weather. And so to devote your resources, your time, your energy to the Chargers, your emotional resources, I mean, that says a lot about you as a Bolt fan. So that is a great segue to my third overall point. And that is, I feel like we have an underdog mentality as a team and as a fan base, right? So people want to use an analogy, we're the Clippers to the Lakers, or, this or that. I don't necessarily take disrespect to that, just so you know, because there's something about being kind of the wolf and not a sheep. There's something about saying, it's super easy to be a fan of the great team and not necessarily a fan of the team that hasn't won everything every single year, right? And so that's, I feel like that's kind of an underdog mentality approach. I really love this team, and I think one of the reasons why is every year, we're going to get them next year, and don't get me wrong, we're going to get them this year, but hopefully you kind of get that vibe when I'm putting down of the underdog mentality. We're not going to be an underdog this year, but when we talk about in terms of the national media, the narrative of first off, they don't even like West Coast teams out on the East Coast, New York, when they're talking about football. I mean, gosh, good luck if they even bring up the Chargers. It seems like when they bring it up, it's like they're rolling their eyes. But they don't give us any type of level of respect. When we made that Cleo Mack trade, we got a little bit of hype, a little bit of excitement because that came out of left field. Nobody saw it coming. Very excited. But I don't feel like we got enough respect when we acquired J.C. Jackson. I mean, they went on and started talking about the NFL Network, and all the other networks started talking about, all these other teams and how they acquired their players. But, acquiring J.C. Jackson from free agency, that is a huge, monumentally, changing, defensive changing, season-changing move, and I don't feel like it was touched on enough. Why? I don't know. Maybe just because we're West Coast. Who knows? But the point is, there's a little bit of it gives me, as a fan, a little bit of that underdog feeling. Like, hey, we're going to show them. And to add to that, every time we're going into like a big game, every single week, the analysts they say, who's going to win each game, right? So let's say it's like they have like 10 analysts and they're like, okay, we're picking today's game. Who's going to win? It seems like anytime they pick, almost all the analysts pick the other team, I feel like, we're definitely going to win, right? I don't know if you feel that way, but that's how I feel. Like, let's say it's like 10 analysts and 9 of them pick the other team to win, but not the Chargers. I'm like, we're definitely winning this game. I feel it. So I think the underdog mentality resonates with us. It has for a long time. I think under Phillip Rivers it kind of had that, and I still think it kind of resonates as a fan base. I think it still it hits home with a lot of people. Comment below if you feel that way as well. So there's that underdog mentality, and now I want to talk another point. My fourth point is the quality of players on the field as well as off the field. We have had a history of phenomenal, high quality, high caliber players on the field and off the field, and not a lot of teams can tip their cap to that. So I'll give you an example of older players. LaDainian Tomlinson, how he was great. Junior Seau, he rest in peace. He's amazing off the field. Great Antonio Gates, just fantastic. So those are fairly recent in history. And then you get into our and I'm missing a few. Lorenzo Neal, there's some great ones, but I'm just kind of hitting on some of the big ones. And then you talk about current Chargers. Look at like Austin Eckler and his foundation and what he's doing, how he's going above and beyond to really engage with fans and help the community and that sort of thing. And we're talking about the big elephant in the room, Justin Herbert. I'm going to give you a little snippet of kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about quality of human beings off the field. If you haven't read it, there's an article that came out a little while back, really kind of diving into Justin Herbert and, kind of him off field. And what they talked about was the shopping carts, right? So everybody knows when you come back out of the grocery store, sometimes it's kind of a pain in the rear to have to take that shopping cart and go put it back into, back into where they go. And to see that, to hear that that's like a pet peeve of Justin Herbert. And I think that the way it was quoted, it was something like, the only time I ever really saw him mad is when I didn't put back the shopping cart. I'm like, wow. I think that says a lot about his character and who he is as a person, especially at his age. He's that's his demeanor, right? And I don't know. Again, that resonated with me. It said, you know what? That says something about him as a person. He has that character quality that I think it's great for players around him because he's leading by example, but it's also great for the fan base because it says, hey, we love our team, but we also love our individual players because they're great off the field. So, that's something I wanted to bring up, right? It's the quality of players on and off the field. And I think we all love them and want to emulate them in a lot of ways. And I know me as being a Bolt dad, I have two little fans that I'm raising. I feel comfortable, excited, happy to have them grow up to be Charger fans because I know they're not just going to hire somebody or they're not going to acquire somebody that maybe doesn't have the best qualities off the field, right? I know I can feel with confidence that they're not going to make that mistake. So that's pretty much it. There's probably other ones, things that I might have missed or thought about, but to me, those are the big points that I wanted to hit on as to why I genuinely believe we have the best fan base in the entire NFL. I can't be more excited for this season, where we're going. It's a big deal. And I'm really happy to be a part of this fan base. And so thank you so much for listening. If you stayed all the way through, thank you very much. Don't forget to click on and watch some of the hype videos that I've created. I created one for Cleo Mack and Joey Bosa. That's super exciting. I've created a couple other ones fairly recently. I made one kind of NFL film style that I tried to use the NFL film style voiceover. So let me know your feedback. If you like stuff like that, let me know. I also have a few sketches that I've been making. They're kind of comedy, really lowbrow, low quality, silly stuff. But if you like that, comment, let me know because I'm more than happy. I love making that kind of thing. So definitely we'll get to continue to bring out that quality or maybe not such high quality content to you. All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And somebody told me I need to have a signature, sign out. So I'm going to try one. You tell me if this is a good one. So I say, bolt up and bolt out.